Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Help Is Here podcast, brought to you by the Beyond Compulsion Academy. Today I'm going to be talking about the danger of being what I call a NoFap circle person. Essentially, a NoFap circle person is someone who leaps from method to method, always researching, always learning, always on this everlasting, never-ending journey, pursuit of seeking and consuming information, trying to stop watching porn, but without any real success. I was a NoFap circle person for 9 years, going round and round and round. It was exhausting, it was frustrating, and I just started to really question myself, what's wrong with me? Is this to do with my sexual desires? Why can't I stop this problem? Why is it that everything I'm trying isn't working? How do I end up relapsing, even though I'm trying so hard to overcome this problem? And to really get across the point that I wish to convey in this video, this podcast, what I want to talk about is I've got a couple of stories today. So we'll start off with one about my ear, weirdly enough. So I've just got back from a small little village called Priano on the Amalfi Coast with my girlfriend. While we were out there, we were going into the sea pretty much every day. We went on some boat trips and, I'd be jumping into the sea and sort of diving in and snorkeling and having a lot of fun. But I ended up getting something in my ear one day, and it was either a little tiny rock, or it was actually this very small sea urchin. I'm not really sure what it was, but I just seen this thing in my ear. I felt it, and I played around with my ear trying to get it out, and then this little thing's popped out of my ear. And ever since, my ear has been feeling pretty awful. And it's only when I pull down on my earlobe that I can even hear in that ear. It's very frustrating, and it just feels like a bit blocked. Now, yesterday, I was trying to solve this problem. I was trying to sort out my ear, get out whatever's in my ear, whether it's water or it's another little mini rock or a sea urchin or whatever's in there. I'm trying to get it out. So I go on YouTube and I type in, how do you get water out of your ear, first of all. There's all these YouTube shorts and it's all these people in your face, very enthusiastic. They're like, number one tip to get seawater out of your ear, you got to start off. And it's like, all right, just calm down, mate. Just let me know how to get this water out of my ear, right? But they're not. They're all in your face, very flashy. Some of them even had these crazy animations and music going on, and I'm just like, what the hell am I watching? But I'm just trying to figure out how to solve this problem. And I learn all these different tips. I'm there in my flat, jumping up and down, wiggling my head around. I'm laying on one side for ages. One of the tips was about getting hydrogen peroxide and putting that in your ear. I didn't go for that one, although it sounded like the results were quite good actually in the comments of that video, because I was looking in the comments as well. Then there was ones about pour water in your ear and then suddenly spin your head around and it's gonna all come out suddenly. There's ones about massaging different parts of your ear in a very delicate way and it's gonna release the water somehow. There's all these different tips. I could go on and on and on, and I tried quite a lot of them. And I was being a circle person when it came to trying to get the water out of my ear, just jumping from one tip to the other, to the other, to the other, going absolutely nowhere. None of these tips actually helped me. But I kept on trying, right? And then eventually I was like, you know what? This isn't working. I'm just going to accept that my ear is a bit screwed right now. I'm going to willingly accept the temporary discomfort of having this water in my ear. That was what I decided. However, I obviously wasn't going to stop there. I still wanted to try find a solution, but I just decided, the internet isn't really helping me here. I'm going to be a little bit more patient, be a bit more serious about this. So I signed up for the local GP surgery, the local doctors here. I did that yesterday and got my application approved this morning, and then I've booked in a call, a consultation today at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So I'll go down, see what the doctors are saying. If that still doesn't work, I'll probably go and pay some money to get some stuff sucked out of my ear. But anyway, the point is, like you can kind of go from one thing to another, to another, to another, to another. The moment that someone actually gives me something that works, whether it's, getting things sucked out and I have to pay a little bit of money to get that sucked out of my ear, or whether the GP say something which really just like does make sense and, I try it out and it actually works. The moment I find something that works, basically, I'm no longer going to be searching, how do I get water out of my ear? I will either just be free from this ear pain and I'll be good, great, or I'll just use that method, repeatedly until the problem's gone entirely. And then if I ever had this problem again, on holiday, then I just use that same method, right? And I wouldn't go online again and try all these different things out that I've already tried that don't work. And I think what we have is all this information, and it's like we're looking for a quick, easy fix. We're looking for this one hack that's going to magically give me this almost orgasmic feeling because my ear is just free from this pain. But I don't think it actually exists. I might be wrong, but I feel like a lot of the times, anyway, and this is more about the addiction recovery, because obviously addiction recovery is different to having the water in your ear, right? But when it comes to addiction recovery, there isn't going to be like one line of information where suddenly everything is solved. Even with our program, we have a very thorough sequence of training. There's phase 1, then there's phase 2, then there's phase 3. You've got to take those phases in that correct order. Then you build out the script. You have your personalized option A, personalized option B, and it's only at that point that you're even ready, prepared to stop the behavior. And then moment by moment, you're going to use this script over and over and over. And a lot of our clients will use this script, thousands of times. I've used the script probably tens of thousands of times. So, you get the education and then you've got to act on that education and actually use it. But when it comes to addiction recovery, what a lot of people are doing is, because it's easy, it's enjoyable, it's fun. A lot of people, they go in online and they're seeking this one quick hack, this one quick tip. But to be honest, it isn't quite as simple as, getting some water out of your ear. You've developed these addictive neural pathways, and those neural pathways have developed over time. It may have taken, usually it's years, right? Usually it's years of watching high-speed internet porn, and you've developed these addictive neural pathways, you've thought about things in a very specific way, and to change those thought patterns and to change how you act, really, you're going to need to do some work. Like, you're going to have to really dig in. It's like if you was really, really overweight, you would have to put in quite a lot of effort, and it will take some time to lose that weight, right? It's not as simple as like one quick, shiny fix. So I just wanted to get across that if you're looking online and you think that like one video is just going to solve all your problems and you're going to be free, I don't think it works like that. That's my experience anyway. As I say, I was stuck in a cycle 9 years, like jumping from one YouTube video to overcome porn to another, and watching YouTube short after YouTube short and TikTok after TikTok and reading book after book. Probably read 100 books trying to solve this problem. For me, there wasn't anything that just like had everything all in one and it just solved the problem. It doesn't work like that. I think you got to go through the education, you build a very specific process and method to stop the behavior, and then you stick to that method over a period of time to solve the problem. So if you had someone that was really, really overweight, they wanted to lose weight, I mean, personally, I would still say actually to use the same method that we use, like use a script to change your neural pathways. But like just in simple terms, if you had someone really overweight, you'd build like a plan for them perhaps, and then they would need to stick to that plan for X amount of time to then solve that problem, and it would just work moment by moment. But if that person was just jumping from one sort of method to another, then another, then another, then another, well, they're just going to become a circle person. It's not going to work. And the reason that people who are really overweight do that is usually because they're jumping from one diet to another and they're just stuck in these feelings of deprivation. Feelings of deprivation is where you feel like you can't do something. And most people, they're trying to implement methods and processes which don't actually change the thought patterns. And the way we act in life is usually dictated by the thought patterns. So we've got to go like a little bit deeper. Any sort of simple, quick hack for overcoming porn addiction that isn't actually looking at the thought patterns that are underlying the behaviour and the feelings that you're acting on, they're going to be ineffective. You've got to change the thought patterns, the way you're using language, the way you're thinking about this problem, the way you're responding to compulsive desire. It's really, how do you rationally think about engaging in compulsivity in those moments where you really, really want to engage? It's actually thinking that through in that moment, rewiring the brain and not acting on the desire by choosing to willingly accept the temporary discomfort in a specific way. That's what's going to start to rewire the brain. And you do that moment by moment, you're going to have success. So last night we were on a group call and we didn't have many people on the group call, to be honest with you. But one guy on the group call, he had actually relapsed and he wasn't doing so well. He was actually in quite a bad place really with it all overall, which was a shame. Obviously we want everyone in the Beyond Compulsion Academy to win, but if someone doesn't choose to use their script, it's unlikely that they're actually going to succeed. And this client hadn't chosen to use his script, and he was very honest about that. But he had a lot of junky thoughts, unanswerable questions coming up. What he had been doing is going online and consuming more and more information, reading more and more books, and he was really, really becoming a circle person. He actually said to me before he joined the program, he was like, "Look, Tom, I'm going to be one of the hardest clients you ever have because I'm so curious. I love learning, and I'm always reading these books on like neuroscience and spirituality and self-improvement. So I'm going to be really hard to work with because I think I'm going to have a lot of junky thoughts and unanswerable questions due to that natural curiosity that I have." And I said to him, "Okay, well, join the program, we'll give it a go," sort of thing. So we did, and we've been working together for a little while. But what he's been doing is he's still not being like 100% all in on the method. Like he's never actually printed out. The reason he relapsed is he never printed out his script. He never actually used his script, and he was still going online and reading all these different books and whatnot. And we were talking about it last night, and I think what it really, really came down to is there was a lack of willingness to experience the temporary discomfort of withdrawal. Because the moment you choose, okay, I'm stopping this behaviour now, from that moment on, you're going to enter a withdrawal process. You're not going to be feeling horrible all the time, absolutely not, especially if you're out of feelings of deprivation. And if you want to get out of feelings of deprivation, I'll leave a link to Fact 1 and Fact 2 in the description below. But yeah, you're not going to be feeling terrible all the time. Withdrawal is uncomfortable, but it shouldn't be agony. That's not really how it works, because moment by moment, you're still choosing what you wish to do, moment by moment, in the present moment. But yeah, you're going to enter this process of withdrawal, and it is going to be uncomfortable at times. And, it's that willingness to actually experience that, knowing that you're going to go through this process, knowing that it is temporary, and that there's another side to all of this. I've just got back from Italy, and honestly, the time I had there was just unbelievable. And I was looking at the photos, the videos on the plane coming home last night, and I was almost in tears just looking at how much my life has changed. Because all these photos and videos of me just genuinely really happy, playing around with my girlfriend or whatever, and taking nice photos, and just how the hell have I ended up here, having been in a really, really dark place with a porn addiction, but I just don't feel like that person anymore at all. So the withdrawal process is temporary, but once you've learned and mastered the skill of dealing with compulsive desire, you're good. You literally never ever need to research or figure out how do you solve this problem again. Once you've got your script, the moment you have a junky thought or an unanswerable question, you go straight to the script and you think it through. Now, if you don't have a script and you're not part of the program, what I just really, really want you to take away from this video is, okay, you need one consistent process, one consistent method for dealing with urges. If you can stick to that method and it works, then you are going to succeed. That is just how this works. But if you keep on jumping from one method to another, always researching, getting these dopamine hits from learning a new thing about neuroscience, you're never going to be free. And the addictive part of the mind is going to trick you into believing that you're learning, you're growing, and things are improving. But the truth is, if you're still relapsing, you're still in an addiction. And there's a big, big difference between making educational progress in terms of researching, learning, and sort of going through all these books and all of that stuff, and the actual neuroplastic like changes, like actually changing your neural pathways. You know, you could read 1,000 books on addiction recovery, but if you then relapse on the 1,001 like book like that you read, like if you then relapse at any point during that time of reading the 1,000 books, okay, well, all of the education isn't really useful. Like, where's actually got you? Like, you're still in an addiction if you're relapsing. And I'm very passionate about this because it's literally like my story. Like, I was literally that guy just going around in circles, always learning, wanting to read more and more and more. And it's because ultimately I never stuck to just one process, one simple methodology to get me free. Now, since meeting Mary Paulis, you know, my mentor, I went all in on this method, and I think that's the thing that's actually like got me to this position. And I think if I had have still had some doubts, and I had have maybe gone and tried something else out, I would have stayed stuck. I would have become a circle person. And I've seen this with clients as well. It's the guys who just go all in on this method and like literally just sort of dismiss everything else, and maybe critique it even. It's those guys who win. And that's why we've got some guys in the program who have gone so many months without porn and their lives have completely transformed because they've just kept things incredibly, incredibly simple. And I think that in itself is almost a skill. But if you do that, if you're willing to do that, if you're that kind of person who, like, once they put their mind to a task, they go all in on it, then success is going to be yours. It's not always comfortable. It's not some quick, easy hack or some quick fix. But if you're actually willing to do the work, then 100% guarantee you can achieve complete freedom from this problem. And that's not to say you're never going to have desires, but you're always at all moments going to know exactly how to deal with them, because you're just going to use a script and think through the choice in that moment rationally by re-engaging the prefrontal cortex and making a rational choice which serves you and your life. So hopefully this helps someone. Please don't be a NoFap circle person. It's going to just last for years and years and years. You're never really going to get anywhere. Find one method to deal with urges in the correct way. Use that method consistently and stop going online seeking loads of different answers, because you're just going to end up going around in circles. Cheers again, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.